All right, we are all set. So, hey, welcome everyone. I have a very special guest joining us today. One of the members in the Fit Body program, Mark Wilson, who went from 246 pounds down to 191 pounds, losing a total of 55, 56 pounds within a span of only 9 months. So, Mark, I want to first of all say congratulations on the tremendous result that you've had with us, and I want to welcome you and thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us here today. How are we doing today, Mark?
Sure, I'm doing good. Thank you for the accolades there. It's been a journey, but it's always good to share my success with others. So I'm happy to do that with you.
Absolutely. And with that said, I'd love to get started in this way where maybe if you could share with everybody a little bit more about your background and how you and I connected as well.
Sure. So I had seen online on social media your information, but initially I saw your handiwork, I guess you could say, or your expertise in actual human beings, who had success with you. First was really my two bosses. One is being the principal of St. Mark Catholic Academy. My boss directly, one of my bosses is the pastor of St. Mark Church, and that's Father Bob Mucci. And he had such tremendous success with you over the course of a similar amount of time. And to me, he was, and I'm not saying this, casually, like a walking billboard of the great work that you do. And then about a year or so ago, we have a new superintendent in the Diocese of Brooklyn, and that's Deacon Kevin McCormack, who I knew from my time at Xaverian High School. And when I was a student there, he was a member of the faculty and administration. And then he became our superintendent, and he had a tremendous amount of success with you. So my two bosses, one more direct than the other, were really walking advertisements for the great work that you're doing. And for me, it was almost like a divine intervention kind of thing. Like, how can, I'm almost being beaten over the head here, saying, why should I not do it at this point? Who else do I need to see to have, to see this progress and the hard work that they've done and the hard work that you've done with them, the great rewards that they've had and the great success that they've had with it. If they can do it, I can do it. And so that's really made me make the leap and make the next step.
I love it, man. I love that. I actually was not aware that Father Bob was technically your direct boss. It makes sense if you think about it, the way
Hey,
it's
right
structured.
across the street.
Yeah, right. He has this story he always shared where there was a repairman that came to St. Mark's, and he's like to Father Bob. He talks, had a conversation with him after he had lost all that weight. Whatever happened to that fat priest that used to work here? And Father Bob tells him, "That's me," and he couldn't believe it. So, yeah, no, it's very good to hear. Mark, I'd love to dive into some of the struggles that you had before joining the program, before achieving this tremendous result. What would you say was the biggest struggle you were having with not only losing the weight, but then keeping it off and creating a sustainable lifestyle change where you weren't following a fad diet or doing extreme exercise boot camps or anything like that?
I think when I joined the Fit Body program, my biggest problem was I kind of stopped trying altogether. And I was falling into this complacency of maybe this is just how I'm meant to look, that, and not that there's anything wrong with people of different body shapes and sizes. And I was okay with that. What I wasn't okay with still, though, was my health. And I felt like I have a family at home, I have a family here at school, and they need me to be the best me that I could be. And I wasn't, and I felt like I was becoming complacent. And if I didn't start to make a change, then this was going to be me for the rest of my life. And again, not so much concerned with appearance in so much as health. And I had tried some other things, they didn't really last, just like watching what I was eating. And even what does that really mean? I'm not too sure. But I would just say, oh, I'm not going to eat this much, or I'm going to be good one day. And it's really just more verbiage and platitudes than it ever really was action. Um, my wife had some pretty good success with Noom that worked for her. And so she kind of did some reworked version of that on me where we didn't have to pay for it again. She tried to just show me how to do it. And I maybe lost a little bit with that, but it either plateaued or kind of just went up and down. At my heaviest, I was probably around 260 pounds. So when I came to you at around in the 240s, that was the Noom seesaw had kind of, that's where I was at that moment. But like I said, I was probably around 260 in January of 22.
Right. You know, Mark, one thing that you touched on a bit earlier in that response is how you had reached this point of why even try? Like you're maybe reaching that point of complacency. I want to ask you because I feel like many men struggle with this to where they've tried so many things in the past and they've never been able to sustain results for a long period of time. Where do you think that stemmed from? That just getting to that place of, you know what, maybe this is just the way I'm supposed to be. And maybe my body, for whatever reason, is not supposed to be under 200 pounds. Where do you think that really stemmed from?
I think it's a combination of things. One, we have, in our society, medicine, and doctors, and don't get me wrong, they will, they are advocates for weight loss too, but they will also medicate you to the point where the side effects of being unhealthy and the side effects of being overweight are mitigated or gone. I remember going to the doctor one day, probably at one of my heaviest points, and it was an older doctor, one I had never really seen. My usual doctor was not in, and he had to renew my blood pressure prescriptions. And I remember he's like, sure, I'll renew your prescriptions, but me giving you these pills is our way of saying it's okay for you to be overweight. Here, just take pills. So I think part of it is we can medicate ourselves to the point where whatever health issues we're dealing with, at least in the short term, are gone. So, I have diabetes, give me a pill for that so I can eat what I want. I have high blood pressure, give me a pill for that so I can eat what I want. And, I think another part of it is complacency, just regular old-fashioned complacency in that I've tried when I was younger and I failed. I have a family now, so maybe, I'm not out on the dating scene, or I'm not, looking to impress people with my physical appearance anymore. I'm past that stage of my life. So let me just stick with what I got. The people I love me for who I am anyway, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But I have people tell me to this day, I didn't realize how overweight you were until I saw you not as overweight as you were, if that makes sense. That people who see you every day also become complacent or kind of blind to what weight issues you're dealing with or what health issues you're dealing with. So I think, to kind of digress a little further, when you have somebody like yourself who we don't really know and kind of can tell you you're not where you should be, or you're not at the point you need to be, it's kind of a wake-up call, because the people you keep around you, it's not that easy for them to say, hey, Mark, you're really overweight and you should probably do something about it. If your doctor's not telling you that, and the people you love and your family are not telling you that, and not out of any malice, just because they're used to seeing you that way, then that's a pretty lethal combination. So sometimes you do need like a third party to say, hey, this is not normal. You need to, come out of your comfort zone.
Wow, you know what that reminds me of, Mark? You ever heard about the boiling frog analogy, where if a frog was thrown in boiling water, it would jump right up. It's so hot. But if you put a frog in lukewarm water and you slowly turn up the heat over time, it would boil to death. It's that slow asphyxiation of comfort that you're talking about. It is a lethal combination, because I find that success, failure in the sense of getting a disease, right? Having health or having a disease, these things don't happen overnight. It's not like, oh, like this one event occurred, now you have diabetes, now you have high blood pressure. These compound over time, and they're like almost unnoticeable until you get to that place. So I love that you said it is a lethal combination. And now that you're on the other side of it, now that you've not only lost a tremendous amount of weight, but you've built muscle, you've created this lifestyle change. How are you feeling? Maybe I would love to actually hear you talk to that, where how are you feeling before and how are you feeling now where you are at a much healthier weight and you are overall in a healthier place?
Um, I think it's just to give you a similar type of answer. It's that gradual progression as well. You don't realize how tired you are sometimes until you're not that tired anymore. Where sure, my job and the day to day are taxing and I can be mentally exhausted some days. But before I started this program, I'd go home and I'd almost literally pass out on the couch at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because I'd just be so tired. And part of it was that I was carrying around an extra 50 or 60 pounds with me every day. And when I lift my weights now and I pick up one that's 40, 45, 50, and I realize that I have this within me for years, it's scary. But it makes me realize that's why I was so tired for so long. So I think from a physical sense, I'm less tired. From a mental perspective, I guess people say you become sharper or, you have more mental acuity. I think I do. Again, I think that just goes hand in hand with being tired. If you're tired, you're probably not making the best decisions you can be. So I think those two, go hand in hand together. And, from a mental health perspective, I spend an extra second in front of the mirror sometimes in the morning. And and I mean that in like a good way, like, hey, I look good, and before I never used to do that. I would just get dressed and make sure my tie wasn't crooked, my fly was zippered, my belt was on right, and I'd be out the door. But now I take that extra split second that I wasn't doing before because I like how I look. And, sometimes my wife will see me and she'll like roll her eyes at me like he's doing it again. But it's a good feeling. It's a rewarding feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you definitely deserve to feel that way after putting in the work, right? For
Yeah.
sure. And actually, one thing I would love to go back to is you mentioned trying some things in the past. What are some of the things, if you could dive a little bit deeper into that you have tried that maybe didn't really stick long term as a lifestyle?
Like I said, I tried the Noom diet, and that was just really counting calories. And like I said, it worked a little bit, but I think what it didn't provide, one, was any type of exercise. I wasn't exercising with it. I was just watching my calories and portioning things out, not even really weighing them per se, but just like less of this and less of that, which saw some moderate results. And I had no idea what a macro was or anything like that. And so I wasn't looking at proteins or carbs or fats or anything like that. So the success there was moderate. And then really anything before that was just nothing official or nothing standardized. It was just, oh, I'll eat less or I won't drink, soda anymore. Not that I drank a lot of soda anyway. Like, see, I would purposely pick things that didn't really like matter. Or I wouldn't have diet soda, but then that doesn't even really matter either. Like it would just be these. There was a time when I was in college where I just ate rice cakes for a while. Like it was just these things that I thought would help because you hear that that's what should help. But we're not experts. We go to doctors for issues. We go to an eye doctor for our eyes, but we should really listen to people who know what they're talking about when you need to lose weight.
Yeah, no, 100%. And with that said, what do you think was different about this program?
Uh, First and foremost, like I said earlier, it was seeing people I know having real life results. These other fad diets or programs you see on TV or online, it's an ad. It's a paid person who says they lost X amount of weight. But to see people I know and trust and are rely upon and are friends of mine, and I can see that they did it, then I know this really worked. There was no doubt in my mind that it worked. And it was just, to me, being accountable being accountable to someone matters. And when I had that component added to it, that really worked for me personally. I like we talked about when I first started, I'm very concrete. I like rules. I like regulation. I like order. And when I'm given that, I'll follow that. And so when I was given that, that worked. And when you see the end result and you're told what the formula is, what else could you ask for?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously the program is all virtual, it's all online. So could you talk a little bit about the accountability in the sense of what maybe almost prevented you from making the leap because none of it is in person, obviously?
That didn't prohibit me at all. If anything, that kind of enticed me further, because if I knew I had to go to a gym and meet with a trainer, that I would make excuses not to do it, or I'd say I'm tired, or even having to call somebody or FaceTime somebody or go on Zoom, you kind of say, oh, can we postpone our meeting? Can we do this? But for some reason, this combination really worked of doing the check-ins, typing the questions, and almost like it was homework for me. For some reason, maybe that's being in education, that just synced with me. But doing my check-ins, putting it on the app, and just knowing that there's somebody there, like always watching, and I mean that in a positive way, that worked for me. I think the fact that it was on my own time, but still being monitored, enticed me to do it further. I think if I was told that I had to go somewhere or like talk to somebody every day or do like these little chats all the time, I would have found that overbearing. I've heard people say like they want to do, a weight loss program. To them, that is not another job. They don't need another responsibility. They just want to be guided and monitored. And to me, that's exactly what this was.
That's very well put, Mark. And go on, please.
No, I would say it was, but I should say in present tense, continues to be.
Yes, no, I love that. I love it, man. Very, very well said. Actually, I think you hit on so many points that I didn't even consider when it comes to the accountability. You're spot on about everything that you just mentioned, actually. I was laughing earlier when you said somebody's always watching because a couple of years ago for November, I actually sent all the members Thanksgiving cards. And the company that I used didn't send a sender. So everybody got a card. They had no idea who it was from. And you're not going to believe this, Mark. The card, you ever seen Monsters, Inc.?
That's what I was thinking when I said it.
Yes. So the card was a picture of Ross, and it's a meme where Ross is talking to Mike Wazowski, and she goes, I'm watching, Wazowski, always watching. And so that was the card I sent to everybody. It was a really nice Thanksgiving card, but that was the note. And nobody had any idea who it was from. I had spouses having arguments, and then one of the members in the Fit Body program said, let this be the year that we remember how Urslan got us in shape and almost got us divorced with our wife. So
I remember that.
I brought back that memory, but I love it, man. And in general, Mark, what would you say to somebody that might be on the fence about just not even joining the program, just having that initial conversation to explore if this would be a good fit? I would actually love to hear from you who you feel like this program is not for, and maybe who this program is for, and then what you would say to anybody that might be on the fence about just having an initial conversation.
For me, I would tell them what I told myself, and it was stop listening to yourself. Because I was making every excuse not to text you, not to call you. I'll do it. It's Tuesday. I'll wait till Monday because Monday's the beginning of the week. And after a while, I was just like, if I'm not going to do this, I'm never going to do it. So it doesn't hurt to just reach out and have that initial consultation. And so for me, it was stop making excuses and really just put yourself out there. The worst that could happen is you think it's not a good fit. And the best that could happen is you're a year later and you've lost 50 pounds or 60 pounds. So if you keep giving yourself excuses, to me, it would just be stop listening to yourself. And just sometimes you just got to like make that leap, make the leap. There's no negative that can come from it. So whatever excuses you're thinking of, forget them and just do it. Just send that text, send that message, send that email, whatever it is. Just do it. Like, to borrow from now, borrowing from Monsters Inc., now borrowing from Nike. I hope we're not copywriting any of this. Just
we get flagged for monetization on YouTube. No, this is not going on YouTube.
In terms of who it's good for and who it's not, you have to be. I think you need to be a consistent person and habitual in a good sense. The habit of logging food, to me, I thought that would be this monumental task. And how am I going to do that? When am I going to stop? Everything I eat, I have to weigh. Yeah, I did. There's no like nice way of making that sound a little bit daunting than it is. But now it's second nature to me. And when you develop, not to get too specific, but when you develop certain meals that you're eating on a consistent basis, you're not measuring anything anymore because you know what it is and you're just entering it in the app. So it's less daunting, but that part held me very much accountable of, if I want a snack at night, I'll go to the app and say, how much room do I have left? And if I don't have it. And that's a great, oversight tool for me. And if I have the room, I'm like, yeah, all right, I have the room. I could do that today. And sometimes do I go over a little bit in one area or another? Yeah, but I think you're not a robot either. So, I think having the consistency and the determination to continue to do it, because you need, yes, you have the oversight and yes, somebody's always watching, but you also need to have your own intrinsic motivation to do it too. And if you just expect you, Urslan, or the program to do it for you, then it's not going to work either. You do, it's like a little kid crossing the street. Yeah, mommy or daddy will hold your hand eventually, but they're not going to hold your hand when you're 30 to cross the street. You eventually have to do it on your own. So.
Absolutely. I feel like you hit on a couple things. One is I love how you said you got to stop listening to yourself, because I couldn't agree more. I feel like sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. So sometimes I feel like you got to stop listening to yourself. You got to start talking to yourself and parenting yourself. Talk about a child and their parents. Parenting yourself for what's in your best interest. And then the other part of it is, perfection is not required. That progress, it beats that perfection mentality every time. So you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be a robot to do this. But to your point, yeah, you do. I'm not going to eat your food for you. I'm not going to come and cook your meals for you. We're doing it with you. We're not going to do it for you.
Exactly.
If I could do it for you, then you and I probably wouldn't even be having this conversation, because I'd probably be, a bajillionaire if I could do it for people.
Exactly.
Actually, I got that from somebody in the Fit Body program told me that, and I reused it. I thought that was really good. Anyways, but yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And so, Mark, with that said, I'd love to hear any last second thoughts you have, anything that you want to leave people off with, maybe a golden nugget that you found that helped you the most. Actually, before we get to that last point, it does sound like the accountability was the biggest thing, actually. So yeah, we could end off there. I'd love to hear from you what you would leave everybody off with, like a golden nugget.
The year goes by really quickly. The year that we work together goes by really quickly. And, let me tell you, I'll leave people off and with the struggle that I still have, or something that I'm still working on, is the self-image I have of myself. There are some days, and you and I talk about this a lot, since from day one till now, day 400 or whatever it is, of looking in the mirror and still seeing the guy with the belly. I do that. Some days worse than others, but I still do that. And it's amazing, like I talked about in the beginning, your family members and your doctor or whoever, they don't often tell you, hey, you're fat, or hey, you're overweight. But you'd be surprised how many people will tell you, you look really good. And that's nice to hear. But sometimes I wanted to say to those same people, why didn't you tell me when I didn't? Why didn't you tell me, oh, is this the healthiest you can be? It's easy to tell people they look good. It's not so easy to tell people that they don't. Not that they don't look good, but they're not healthy. And I have parents at my school telling me, Mr. Wilson, what are you doing? What's your secret? And I'll tell them, but I want to say, did these same parents think that I was unhealthy before and just didn't tell me? So there's a lot of it is psychological. I think that's my point too, is sure, it's physical, the workout, the eating, but like you say, every week or every often you do that inner game, it is really a psychological thing with yourself. So one is you need to be hard on yourself. You need to have that intrinsic motivation, but you also don't need to be so hard on yourself either. When people say, hey, you're looking good, or hey, that's really working, believe them. Listen to them, because that's what feels the best. Because sometimes we don't always see it, and sometimes they don't always see it. But when other people see the hard work that you put in, that's one of the greatest rewards of it. So that's what I would leave people with.
I love that, man. What it reminds me of is I've learned this concept recently and I loved it. It's like sometimes we block our blessings, where it's like somebody's giving us a compliment or somebody's holding the door. It could be as simple as somebody holding the door open. And I at least I do this, where it's like, no, I got it. I'll hold the door open for everybody else, or like, I'll give the compliment to everybody else, but we have a hard time receiving. And I think sometimes we block our blessings in that way, right? And talk about just having a conversation with myself, right? Maybe that would be the blessing that somebody, I'm not, trying to boost my ego, but maybe that would be the thing that somebody needs to kickstart their journey. Or maybe they do join the program and they end up where you are, where they have a tremendous amount of weight reduction and they've built muscle and they've created this sustainable lifestyle. So all that to say, I love that. I love that concept of really receiving the compliments that you're getting, receiving those blessings as well. So Mark, that was phenomenal. I want to thank you for your time. I am respectful and mindful of time, and I want to thank everybody for watching. And I wanted to let everybody know that we're actually doing a Black Friday special this month. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can build muscle while losing body fat and create a sustainable lifestyle through what I like to call a metabolic revamp, then I want to invite you to message me the word Black Friday. And what we'll do is we'll chat a little bit about your fitness goals. We'll see what's working, what's not working, and then we can go over how everything works with the Fit Body program itself to see if there would be a good fit for us to work together. So that's it. Thank you all for watching. If you can, like and heart this video and share this with somebody that you believe would also find it inspiring, that would be amazing. So thank you again, Mark, for joining us here. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you in our next video.
Thank you.